Welcome back to Beyond the Tube. This episode, we are lucky enough to have the wonderful Belinda Baxter, therapist, here with us to discuss all things child therapy, play therapy, and medical trauma-related therapy. Thank you for joining us today, Belinda.
Thank you so much, Fiona. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Thank you. I would really like to start with what it is that you do as a therapist, but particularly focusing on children and play therapy.
Play therapy is just so beneficial for children that have been through medical trauma, children with ADHD or autism. It's just such a great way to teach kids to communicate through play. Children specifically between the ages of 2 to 12 that don't necessarily have the skills to communicate and express how they're feeling. The play therapy is just such a useful tool to teach kids how to identify their emotions, to process them and to work through them.
What does a therapy session look like when you're utilizing play therapy?
We'd have different games, books, painting stations, sand pit set up, typically in a clinic space, or we also offer a mobile service where we will bring along different games and books, different emotion cards. And we'd have different things set up and we'd usually let the child gravitate towards which thing they would like to play with first. So we let them, I think it's important to create that safe space.
Definitely.
And to let them feel in control over what they would like to play with first.
Absolutely.
Of course, we do sort of guide and have set things there. We have a goal that we might be working on that day. So we'll bring things that are specifically tailored towards that. So if we're working on assisting the child to identify some emotions and how they may be feeling, we purposely bring along some play equipment and tools that help to identify their emotions. It might be some cards with different facial expression. It might be real life facial expressions, or it could be their favorite cartoon characters. Anything we feel that they can relate to that will help identify that that person is feeling sad or that person is feeling happy, and then teaching them to first identify that emotion, but then also to learn how to express that emotion.
That's amazing. That's so wonderful. Obviously for me, I've seen it firsthand. So I can attest to the fact that it's helpful, it works. I would also really like to unpack how play therapy and therapy in general, but specifically play therapy for the younger children. How does that help with children who have got medically complex needs, medical trauma, or any kind of trauma?
I think specifically in terms of the medical trauma, there's generally quite a lot of fear and anxiety and the unknown around going into a medical procedure. So it is important to, in the play therapy, we work on reenacting that scene. It might be a matter of letting the child take on the doctor role as opposed to the patient role, making them feel safe and comfortable and feel as though they're in control over that situation. It also helps to normalize the situation, and children who have been through a medical trauma, they feel very different to other children that might be the same age as them but haven't gone through a similar thing. So, one thing we do focus on is normalizing that situation within a role-playing setting within the play therapy.
That's amazing.
Also, aiming to just create that real safe space where they can make sense of the situation through play.
Do you find that you have a lot of success with children who are undertaking play therapy who could potentially do this kind of thing at home, maybe with mum or dad or a carer or grandparent, but find it to be more successful because they don't have that family connection? Do you find that to be more successful?
Absolutely. I think it's always good to have that third party become involved with this sort of thing, because it just does add that extra element to it, extra guidance through different things that may not necessarily come as naturally within that home environment.
What happens when you have a child who is feeling a big range of emotions but don't have the capability verbally to share that, whether that's due to an autism diagnosis or it may just be that they're too young to verbalize or may have delayed speech? How do you help those children?
Yeah, within a play therapy setting, role play can be a really useful tool for them to express their emotion through play. And then as a therapist, we can intervene and notice when they are using, say, for example, they might have a baby that they're playing with and the baby might be crying. And we can then intervene and say, oh, the baby looks sad, and identify that emotion. And then you can, again, ask more questions around that and say, oh, why is the baby feeling sad? And see how they respond, whether it is something that they feel comfortable to articulate verbally, or whether that moves into another area of role play.
Okay.
Depending on the child and what stage they're at with communicating. Yeah, it can be a great tool just to get started, and then eventually, hopefully, teaching them those words that they can then start to use to express how they feel.
Which is great, because what I hear from that is it doesn't matter for the parents who are out there who have children who do have maybe delayed speech or are nonverbal. This type of therapy is very much achievable. I suppose generally when people think of therapy, they think of a one-on-one conversation, a sit down talking. Obviously, for a lot of people, play therapy may not have been in their repertoire before, so they may not have seen it or heard about it. I know for myself, it was something that I was unfamiliar with until it was suggested to us, actually by our speech therapist. So I think that that's really fantastic, because I think what that has actually done for Ezra is also help him with his speech. So it's actually been quite complementary, which I'm sure a lot of people don't necessarily connect immediately, particularly as parents or carers. So I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Play therapy can work in together with a lot of the other therapies, like the occupational therapy and the speech therapy. It can just complement those other therapies by expanding on the emotional regulation and the communication skill,
which is incredible, and it does still give the child a sense of play and fun and excitement. It's not traditional therapy where they're sitting down and having to focus on something. It's more loose and fun, and they tend to have some control. On that topic, I would like to ask you about how you have specifically helped children with tubes, and it may be like children starting off with an NG tube and then transitioning and preparing them for a surgery where they may be having a gastrostomy placed. How have you found those experiences?
I think particularly when children are having difficulty eating food more naturally, and it could be for reasons, lots of different choking experiences, that brings out that fear factor every time they do then go to eat something. So in the play therapy sessions, the focus then would be on helping the child to relax and making those food experiences more positive. So it would be starting off with maybe something very soft that they can digest quite easily and that there's going to really limit any chance of choking. And then gradually moving on to increase other foods for them down the track. But it is important when there is any sort of trauma that's occurred, just that safety factor and making them feel safe. And the play therapy is designed to give them those positive, more enjoyable experiences. And when they can then see themselves eating not choking and having a more positive experience, then they are more likely to continue with that and to try different foods and be more open.
Do you think that play therapy, therapy in general, but I guess for this particular situation, I'm leaning towards saying play therapy, is beneficial for children who are maybe transitioning to a different type of tube, maybe transitioning to trying to eat food orally if they've previously been limited to not be able to? Do you think that that is of benefit to those children?
I think giving them that safe space where they can try different things and normalize the situation. Also, just be prepared for what's to come. So a lot of the time with children as well, that there has been a history of feeling unsafe and going through trauma, it's so important then to give them that safe space.
Yes.
Where they can, I guess, in a way, just know what's to come. A lot of that fear tends to come from the unknown and not knowing what to expect.
Yes.
So the play therapy and other forms of therapy can just give them that space where they can practice out some different scenario and just know exactly what's to come.
Helps them anticipate what's on the horizon for them.
Yeah.
Definitely. I would like to share that with Ezra in particular, and obviously I can only speak of our circumstance and our situation, but I know when it was recommended, as I said, by a speech therapist to invest in this space and look into it and test it out.
Yeah.
I have to say I was a bit skeptical to begin with because I felt that he was too young and I didn't think that he would reciprocate very well with play therapy. He was also struggling significantly with speech. So I think there was an element of fear and unknown for me. I'm really thankful that we took that step because I can see very, very easily now the difference that it's made to his life. And particularly very recently, we had his button changed at the hospital. We choose to take him to the hospital to have his button changed so that we don't experience more medical trauma in our home.
Yeah.
And that was something that was very important to my husband and I. Keep it separate.
Yeah.
Recently, just over Easter, took him to have his button changed and we were walking into the hospital and he said to me, "Mum, I'm scared."
Oh, yeah.
And I've never heard him vocalize before that he was scared. And I said, "That's okay. You're allowed to be scared, but I'm here with you and you'll be okay. And just remember, everybody's got your best interest at heart and they all want you to be okay."
Yeah.
We talked about it and we discussed it and it was all discussed with him before the change was done. Tube changes are very traumatic for Ezra, unfortunately, anyway. And I think that's due to 16 months of an NG tube with it coming out every other day and reinsertion. I think that's part of what you work with him about to do with medical trauma. But I definitely saw this other side where he was actually able to express how he felt. And I'd never seen that before, which was just incredible. And we got back to the car and I said, "You were so brave." He said, "I don't feel very brave." And I said, "You're very brave. You did it. You did it. And look, you've done it." And I think that was really important to recognize that because he has never been able to articulate feelings before. Whether that's because he's constantly lived in a particular state, of fear or worry and just doesn't and just becomes natural.
Not sure how to label it because he's so used to feeling that way.
And not knowing how to articulate the differences between I feel happy or sad or angry or upset or whatever those feelings may be at that time.
To be able to pinpoint that exact feeling. And I think then that becomes so helpful for parents. It is important to acknowledge that there's so much anxiety that goes on within the parents as well. Because for a child Ezra's age that can't quite yet articulate how they're feeling, we're just not sure. So it increases anxiety within the parents as well.
Definitely.
Once they do learn and get to that stage where they can now articulate how they're feeling, it then helps you know how you can best manage that.
Absolutely.
And go, okay, he is feeling really scared.
Yes.
I need to do whatever I can now to ease that and just really be able to talk him through and make him feel at ease and more relaxed. And that then reduces anxiety for Ezra, but also anxiety for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another element to talk about as well is how do parents and grandparents and other carers that may be in this child's life, how do they support what you're doing in therapy sessions?
Much of what we're doing in our sessions can be replicated at home. So even just simple things like having a set routine, that increases predictability and eases a lot of that anxiety. Even just doing different role play activities can help normalize different procedures that might be coming up. If you're aware that there is a procedure coming up, talking about it and just easing the nerves or fear that they may be feeling.
Yes.
Role playing with their favorite toy, could have the favorite toy going through that sort of procedure and talking through calming the toy and different things like that.
Okay. That's a great idea, and that's really good. And I'm obviously forethinking myself of, upcoming procedures and things like that. So I think for me, that's definitely beneficial and helpful. And it's a nice reminder of what you can proactively do as a parent and carer to help ease their anxiety and their fear and worry.
Yeah.
It's real. It's very much real.
Yeah.
I definitely think that young children understand far more than we often give them credit for. And I think when you've got a medical child that does have additional needs, I think that becomes quite apparent that there's a lot that they go through and they're so small and their understanding is far beyond I think what they can even articulate.
Yeah.
They see it, they feel it, they go through those emotions.
They're feeling all those big emotions before they can verbalize it or before they even know that's what they're feeling.
Before they can identify what it is. And I think sometimes it's easy to misunderstand different emotions, particularly in young children. I mean, obviously for me, as just 3.5, I definitely feel at the moment it's quite difficult. I think he finds it difficult to differentiate between like frustration and anger and tiredness and, overwhelm.
And they can all look the same sometimes, especially in young children. Their behaviours are usually what we gauge and go to try and understand how they're feeling.
Definitely.
But a lot of those behaviours of feeling tired and frustrated, they can all look very similar.
Yes.
So, that is the hardest part when they're that age. Yeah.
I think too, though, on that, where I feel that play therapy has really, really strongly benefited Ezra outside of the obvious, the medical trauma side of things, if we're just stripping it back to emotion and feeling and understanding those things, is that having a conversation with him and actually saying to him, I think you might be feeling grumpy because you're tired, and helping him to understand the connections between when we're tired or we've had a really big day or we've had lots of therapy appointments or we've been at preschool or whatever it is that the child's been through. I think it's really good to unpack that feeling with them so they start to connect and understand the difference. And I feel like for me as a parent and carer, that's what I've taken away from watching these sessions and being able to go, okay, I can help by helping him to identify what's going on. Which we take for granted. Yes. Because we obviously know when we're feeling annoyed, we know when we're feeling sad. Of course, there's some crossover in those emotions for us as well, but it's so much more difficult to watch a child.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. Like, identifying those emotions, putting that label on it, and also looking at reasons why they may be feeling that way is the next step onto that.
Yeah, definitely.
And not putting down negative emotions.
Yes.
Because we're all going to experience such a range of emotions, whether it's positive or whether it's negative.
Yeah.
But to teach them there's nothing bad about feeling angry or feeling frustrated or feeling sad.
Yes.
Everyone is going to experience those emotions throughout their life. It could be within one day you might experience feeling happy, sad, angry, annoyed.
Yes.
That's just the cycle of emotion and how we feel.
Yeah.
So it is important not to shy away from those negative emotions and teach the child that it is just as important to articulate and to look at reasons why we might be feeling angry or sad, just as it is as important to be feeling happy and excited.
Absolutely. Definitely. Obviously, your speciality is in children and children's therapies, but I would like to ask you, what are your practical suggestions that you could give to any parents or carers out there who might be experiencing, carer burnout, extreme fatigue, traveling around, taking your child to multiple appointments and probably juggling other home activities and other kids and work. And there's so much on everybody's plate, generally speaking. But when you've got a medically challenged child,
so much more.
there's a higher level of degree. So do you have any practical tips that people could
I think
implement?
It's so important, and it's easy to say self-care and looking after yourself, but trying to find the time can be really difficult in amongst everything else that's going on.
Definitely.
But even if it is just setting aside half an hour at the end of your day when the kids have gone to bed, doing something relaxing or something that's just for you.
Yeah.
Something that you really enjoy doing. It could be reading a book or listening to music or a podcast or watching your favorite TV show.
Yeah.
Making sure you do schedule time in the day for yourself.
Yes.
And if you feel like, you are needing that little bit extra, it is important to reach out to your GP.
Yes.
Even see a therapist yourself if you're feeling like, you need to reach out to someone and talk through things.
Yeah. No, I agree. With all of it. With every aspect of it. I definitely think that it's easy to get caught in the cycle in the medical space of just focusing on your child.
Else first.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got the rest of your family and, friends and other life expectations
it's so
out
hard to divide your time between everything.
Yes.
And quite often parents do put themselves at the back of everything.
Oh, 100%.
Because there's so much more demand that are there.
Yes,
so,
I agree.
Yeah, it's very important to take care of yourself because then that makes it easier than to take care of everyone else.
Yeah.
So
fill your cup and then for everybody else's. Like when you're on an aeroplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on, then you do the kids. If you don't have enough oxygen, you can't help those around you.
And very similar thing, if we're feeling burnt out, if we're feeling quite flat ourselves, in a very low mood, it does really affect our energy levels and how we can be present with others.
And obviously we can't support our children, and particularly our medically complex children, who generally have higher needs, if we are burnt out.
Exactly.
And there's often not that reach to be able to just easily find somebody who can do it in your place.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to practice self-care, like you said, and try and prioritize that.
Yeah, look for things that are going to help you relax and things that you do enjoy that are just for you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so important.
So the last question I wanted to ask you was, what signs should parents look out for, particularly in their younger children, like toddlers or preschoolers, if they think that they might be struggling?
Yeah, I would suggest any sort of behavioural change. It can either be outbursts in behaviour, so perhaps more tantrums or just seeming more emotional, like more of an emotional reaction to things than usual, but can also go the other way and become quite withdrawn. For those children that internalize more than the outburst behaviour, typically in girls, they tend to internalize and withdraw.
Yes.
I would say with a period of, say, 2 to 3 weeks, in that behaviour is continuing over that length of time and does seem quite out of the ordinary. At either end of the scale, that would be a good indication to speak to your GP or paediatrician. And talk to them about getting a referral to see a therapist, whether that be a psychologist or counsellor that specialises in the play therapy. Depending on the age of the child, the paediatrician would probably know which way to sort of recommend, whether it be a psychologist or a counsellor like myself that specialises in the play therapy. But it is important to get that intervention, I guess, as soon as possible. Just to prevent those behaviours from escalating and turning into, I guess, just becoming more serious.
And I guess more frequent too, I would imagine. Those behaviours become routine rather than
and the longer they go on for, sometimes the harder it is to then redirect and correct those behaviours.
Which makes sense.
If there is anything out of the ordinary, best to seek consultation from pediatrician initially, and then they will refer.
Perfect. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming along.
Very much for having me.
It's been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much more, and I felt like I knew a lot, but now I feel like I know a lot more.
Yeah,
which is wonderful. I'm hoping you'll come back on again in the future, and we might even be able to do some physical demonstrations on what play therapy physically looks like in a session.
That would be amazing.
Insight. I think that would be really cool. Hopefully you've enjoyed your time and the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Tube. This episode has been enlightening and wonderful, and I really hope you've gotten something out of today's episode. The next one will be with an incredible speech therapist, and I'm really hoping you'll be able to tune in to that episode when it comes out. Looking forward to going on this journey with you once more. Until the next time, thanks so much.